The morning sun barely crested the Nevada horizon when Ethan Grayson spotted the figure huddled beside the dried creek bed just outside Pahrump. Her wedding dress torn and stained with dust and what looked like blood. He pulled his horse to a stop, the leather reins creaking in his weathered hands as he dismounted slowly. The woman was crying, her shoulders shaking with each sob, and she did not seem to notice his approach. Ethan cleared his throat gently, not wanting to startle her. She looked up with red-rimmed eyes, her face streaked with tears and dirt. Even in her disheveled state, Ethan could see she was young, probably no more than 22 or 23, with dark auburn hair that had come loose from what must have been an elaborate arrangement. Her green eyes held a depth of pain that made his chest tighten. "Madam, are you hurt?" he asked, keeping his distance to avoid frightening her further. She laughed bitterly, a sound that held no humor. "Hurt? My body will heal, my heart though." She shook her head. "I thought love was a lie. Turns out I was right." Ethan crouched down, still maintaining a respectful distance. The year was 1882, and he had seen plenty of hardship in his 28 years, but something about this woman's despair struck him differently. "What happened to you?" "I was supposed to get married this morning," she said, her voice hoarse from crying. "To a man I thought loved me. Turned out he only wanted my father's land. When I overheard him talking to his brother last night, planning how they would force my father to sign over the deed after we were married, I tried to run. They chased me. I jumped from the wagon about 5 miles back." Ethan looked at her more carefully now and saw the scrapes on her hands and arms, the way she held her left ankle at an odd angle. "You are hurt. Let me help you." "Why would you help me? You do not even know me." "Because leaving a woman alone and injured in the desert is not something I could live with. My name is Ethan Grayson. I have a small ranch about 3 miles west of here. Let me at least get you somewhere safe. Get those wounds tended to." She studied his face for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether to trust him. Finally, she nodded. "Emma Morgan, and I suppose I have little choice. My ankle will not support me." Ethan moved closer and gently helped her to her feet. She winced when she tried to put weight on her left foot. Without asking permission, he scooped her up into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, and he carried her easily to his horse. "I cannot ride like this," Emma protested, gesturing to her torn wedding dress. "Then we will go slow," Ethan said. He mounted first, then reached down and pulled her up to sit in front of him, her injured leg positioned carefully. She stiffened at first, clearly uncomfortable with the intimacy of the position, but as they began moving, she gradually relaxed against him. The ride to his ranch took nearly an hour. Emma did not speak much, but Ethan could feel her trembling occasionally. Whether from pain, fear, or exhaustion, he could not tell. He kept his arms steady around her, guiding the horse with gentle pressure from his knees. His ranch came into view as they crested a small rise. It was not much to look at, just a modest wooden house with a barn and a few outbuildings, but it was honest work and he had built most of it with his own hands. A dozen cattle grazed in a fenced pasture, and chickens scratched in the yard. "It is not fancy," Ethan said, feeling suddenly self-conscious. "It is beautiful," Emma said softly. "It looks like home." He helped her down and carried her inside, setting her carefully on the worn sofa in his small living area. The house was neat but sparse, furnished with only what was necessary. He had no wife, no family, just himself and the quiet life he had built after leaving his past behind. "Let me get some water and bandages," he said, moving toward the kitchen area. While he gathered supplies, Emma looked around the room. There were no pictures on the walls, no personal touches that spoke of family or loved ones, just functional furniture and a few books on a shelf. It was the home of a man who lived alone and expected to continue doing so. Ethan returned with a basin of water, clean cloths, and some strips of fabric for bandaging. He knelt beside the sofa and gently took her hand, cleaning the scrapes on her palms first. His touch was surprisingly gentle for a man whose hands were so obviously accustomed to hard work. "This might sting," he warned before dabbing at a deeper cut on her forearm. Emma bit her lip but did not pull away. "You are kind to help me. Most men would have just kept riding." "Most men are fools," Ethan said quietly. He finished cleaning her arms and hands, then looked at her ankle. "I need to look at this. I will be respectful." She nodded, and he carefully lifted the hem of her dress just enough to see her swollen ankle. It was badly bruised but did not appear broken. He wrapped it firmly with strips of clean cloth, his movements efficient and practiced. "You have done this before," Emma observed. "I have had my share of injuries. Ranch work is not gentle." He finished securing the bandage and stood. "You should rest. I will make some coffee and see about getting you some proper clothes. That dress is ruined." "I do not have anything else." "Everything I owned was in the wagon," her voice caught. "Everything. I have some old shirts and pants. They will be too big, but at least they are clean and whole." He paused. "You are welcome to stay here as long as you need. I know you have no reason to trust me, but I give you my word that you are safe here." Emma looked up at him, studying his face again. He had dark brown hair that needed cutting, blue eyes that held both strength and kindness, and a face weathered by sun and wind. He was handsome in a rough, honest way, but more than that, there was something in his manner that made her feel genuinely safe for the first time in weeks. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You do not know anything about me. I could be lying. I could be trouble." "Are you lying?" "No." "Then I suppose we will figure out the rest as we go." He moved to the kitchen and began making coffee. "Are you hungry?" "I should be, but I cannot seem to think about food right now." She leaned back against the sofa cushions, suddenly exhausted. "I have not slept in 2 days. I was too nervous about the wedding and then last night." "Sleep then. You are safe here. I will be outside working, but I will check on you." Emma wanted to protest, to say she should not impose, but her body had other ideas. Her eyes were already closing. "Thank you, Ethan Grayson. You are a good man." "Just a man, Emma Morgan, just a man." He watched her fall asleep, her breathing gradually becoming deep and even. Then he quietly left the house, closing the door softly behind him. He had work to do, cattle to check on, fences to mend, but his mind was not on any of that. It was on the woman sleeping in his house, on the pain in her eyes when she said she thought love was a lie. Ethan had his own reasons for being alone out here, his own history with love and loss. 5 years ago, he had been engaged to a woman back in Kansas. They had planned a life together, had dreamed big dreams. Then she had met a banker, someone who could give her a better life than a struggling rancher could offer. She had not even had the decency to tell him herself. He had found out when he showed up to take her to Sunday services and found her gone, married to the banker 2 days prior. He had come to Nevada to start fresh, to build something that was entirely his own. He had sworn off women, off love, off all the complications that came with opening your heart. And yet here he was, bringing a runaway bride into his home, feeling protective of a woman he had just met. He shook his head and focused on his work. Emma would heal, and then she would move on. That was how it had to be. Inside the house, Emma slept fitfully. Her dreams were filled with images of her former fiancé, Richard Thornton, and his cold eyes when she had confronted him. She had loved him, or thought she had. He had been charming, attentive, everything a woman could want. Her father had approved of the match. Richard came from a good family, had prospects. Everything had seemed perfect, until she had overheard that conversation. Richard and his brother discussing how once the marriage was complete, they would force her father to sell his land at a fraction of its worth. How they had gambling debts that needed to be paid. How Emma was just a means to an end. She had run. Not very far, as it turned out, but far enough. And now she was in a stranger's house, dependent on his charity. She had nothing, no money, no possessions, no prospects. Her reputation would be ruined once word got out that she had run from her wedding. No decent man would have her now. When she woke, the sun was lower in the sky. She had slept for hours. She sat up carefully, testing her ankle. It still hurt, but the swelling had gone down a bit. She stood slowly, hopping on her good foot, and made her way to the window. Outside, she could see Ethan working with one of his horses in a small corral. He moved with easy confidence, his voice low and steady as he spoke to the animal. The horse, a beautiful chestnut mare, responded to him with obvious trust. Emma watched, fascinated by the patience he displayed. She heard the front door open behind her and turned, nearly losing her balance. Ethan was there in an instant, steadying her with a hand on her elbow. "Careful," he said. "That ankle needs more time. I was just watching you with the horse. She trusts you. Horses are honest. If you treat them right, they respond in kind." He guided her back to the sofa. "I brought you some clothes. They are in the bedroom, first door on the right. There is a basin and pitcher for washing up too. Thank you. I must look terrible. You look like someone who has had a hard time. That is nothing to be ashamed of." He moved to the kitchen. "I am going to make some supper. Nothing fancy, just beans and bacon and biscuits. You should try to eat something." Emma nodded and made her way to the bedroom, using the wall for support. The room was as spare as the rest of the house, with just a bed, a dresser, and a washstand. The clothes he had left for her were neatly folded on the bed. A shirt, pants, and even socks. No boots, but her own slippers had survived the ordeal, though they were worse for wear. She washed carefully, wincing as the cold water hit her scrapes and bruises. Then she changed out of the ruined wedding dress, leaving it in a heap on the floor. The shirt hung loose on her frame, and she had to roll up the sleeves several times. The pants required a piece of rope to keep them up. But she was clean and covered, and that felt like a victory. When she emerged, Ethan was setting plates on a small table. He looked up and something flickered in his eyes. "Those fit better than I expected. You are being kind. I look ridiculous. You look comfortable. That is what matters." He pulled out a chair for her. "Please sit. You need to eat." The food was simple but good, and Emma found that she was hungrier than she thought. They ate in silence for a while, but it was not uncomfortable. Finally, Emma spoke. "What will I do? I cannot go back to town. Richard will be looking for me. My father will be worried sick, but if I contact him, Richard will find out. Your father does not know about Richard's plans. No, he thinks Richard is a good man. He was thrilled about the match." She put down her fork. "I have no money, no way to support myself. I am ruined." "You are not ruined. You are smart. You got yourself out of a bad situation." Ethan leaned back in his chair. "As for what comes next, we will figure it out. You can stay here as long as you need. I can use help around the ranch. It is not proper, you living here unchaperoned, but given the circumstances, I think survival is more important than propriety right now. You would let me work for you. Why not? You have 2 good hands and a sharp mind. The ankle will heal. There is plenty of work to go around. I can pay you in room and board for now, and once you are steadier on your feet, we can discuss wages." Emma felt tears prick her eyes again, but this time they were tears of relief and gratitude. "I do not understand why you are being so kind to me." Ethan was quiet for a moment. "Because everyone deserves a second chance. Because kindness costs nothing. Because it is the right thing to do." He stood and began clearing the dishes. "You should rest more tonight. Tomorrow we can start figuring out what comes next." That night, Emma slept in Ethan's bed while he took the sofa. She protested, but he would not hear arguments. "You are injured and exhausted. I have slept in worse places than a sofa," he had said with finality. As she lay in the darkness, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the desert night, Emma thought about the strange turn her life had taken. Just yesterday morning, she had been preparing for her wedding, nervous but excited about her future. Now she was in a stranger's home, wearing men's clothes with no clear path forward. And yet, she felt safer than she had in weeks. There was something about Ethan Grayson, something solid and dependable. He had asked for nothing from her, had simply offered help when she needed it most. It was more than Richard had ever done, for all his pretty words and promises. In the other room, Ethan lay awake as well, staring at the ceiling. He told himself he was just doing the decent thing, that any man with a conscience would do the same. But he could not deny the way his heart had skipped when Emma emerged from the bedroom in his clothes, or the protective surge he felt when she spoke of her fear and uncertainty. He was in dangerous territory. He had built a good life here, a quiet life, free from the complications of the heart. Emma Morgan threatened all of that just by existing in his space, but he could not turn her away. Would not, even if he could. The next morning, Emma woke to the smell of coffee and bacon. She dressed quickly and limped to the kitchen, where Ethan was cooking breakfast. "Good morning," he said without turning around. "How is the ankle?" "Better, I think. Still sore, but I can put a little weight on it." "Good, do not push it too hard." He placed a plate in front of her. "Eat up. Then I will show you around the place, let you see what needs doing." After breakfast, they walked slowly around the property. Ethan pointed out the chicken coop, which needed cleaning, the vegetable garden, which was being overrun by weeds, the fences that needed mending, the barn that needed organizing. There was work enough for 3 people, let alone one man doing it all alone. "Why do you not have help?" Emma asked. "This is too much for one person. Cannot afford to pay anyone, and I like the solitude." He glanced at her. "Or I did anyway. Do you regret helping me?" "No," he said immediately. "I do not regret it at all." They stood there for a moment, something unspoken passing between them. Then Ethan cleared his throat and pointed to the chicken coop. "Think you could manage feeding the chickens and collecting eggs? Nothing too strenuous for your ankle." "I can do that." And so began their routine. Emma took over the lighter tasks, the ones that did not require much walking or standing. She fed the chickens, collected eggs, weeded the garden while sitting on an old stool Ethan brought her. As her ankle healed over the following days, she took on more work. She learned to milk the cow, to churn butter, to mend clothes and cook proper meals. Ethan was a patient teacher, never condescending, always respectful. He treated her like a partner, not a servant or a burden. They worked side by side during the day and sat together in the evenings, talking about small things. The weather, the cattle, the garden. Nothing deep or personal, but the conversation was easy and comfortable. A week passed, then 2. Emma's ankle healed and her cuts and bruises faded. She grew stronger from the physical work, and the haunted look in her eyes began to ease. She found herself laughing at Ethan's dry humor, smiling at the way he talked to his animals like they were people. For his part, Ethan found himself looking forward to the end of each day when they would sit on the porch and watch the sun set over the desert. Emma had a quick wit and a sharp mind. She asked thoughtful questions and listened to his answers. She did not fill every silence with chatter, but she was not distant either. She was just present in a way that made his house feel like a home for the first time. One evening, about 3 weeks after he found her, they were sitting on the porch when Emma spoke. "I should contact my father. He must be frantic with worry." Do you want me to ride into town tomorrow? I can post a letter for you. Would you? I do not want to say where I am, just that I am safe, and I need to tell him about Richard. Write it tonight. I will post it first thing." Emma nodded, but she looked troubled. "What if he does not believe me? Richard is very convincing, and my father was so pleased about the match. Your father loves you. He will believe you. How can you be sure? Because if he is any kind of father at all, he will trust his daughter's word." Ethan looked at her. "And if he does not, then you have a place here for as long as you want it." The words hung in the air between them. Emma felt her heart flutter in a way that both thrilled and terrified her. She barely knew this man, and yet he had shown her more genuine care in 3 weeks than Richard had in 6 months of courtship. "Why did you never marry?" she asked suddenly, then immediately regretted the boldness of the question. "I am sorry, that was too personal." "It is all right." Ethan was quiet for a moment. "I was engaged once. She chose someone else, someone better." "Better? I cannot imagine anyone better than you." The words slipped out before Emma could stop them. She felt her face flush, but Ethan did not seem uncomfortable. Instead, he turned to look at her, his blue eyes serious. "She chose someone richer, someone who could give her a fancy house in town, pretty dresses, an easy life. I cannot offer those things. Those things do not matter if there is no respect, no genuine care." Emma's voice was passionate. "Richard could have given me everything material, but he did not love me. He did not even see me as a person, just as a means to get what he wanted. You, on the other hand, you have treated me with more dignity in 3 weeks than he did in months." "Emma, I know it is too soon. I know I am probably confused, mixing up gratitude with something else. But I need you to know that what you have given me, this kindness, this respect, it has shown me what I should have been looking for all along. It has shown me that maybe love is not a lie after all. Maybe I was just looking in the wrong places." Ethan stood and walked to the porch railing, his back to her. Emma held her breath, afraid she had said too much, pushed too far. But when he turned around, his eyes were intense. "I told myself I was done with all of this. That I would build my life out here alone, that I did not need anyone. And then you showed up, and everything I thought I wanted started to feel empty." He took a step toward her. "But you have been through something terrible. You are vulnerable right now. I will not take advantage of that." "You are not taking advantage. I am telling you how I feel. How you think you feel. Emma, you need time. You need to heal not just your body but your heart. You need to sort out what is real and what is just the relief of being safe." He crouched in front of her chair. "I am not going anywhere. This ranch will still be here, I will still be here, but you need to be sure." Emma wanted to argue, to insist she knew her own heart. But looking into his eyes, she saw not rejection but care. He was protecting her, even from himself, and that made her care for him even more. "All right," she said softly. "I will take the time, but Ethan, I do not think my feelings are going to change." He smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes and transformed his serious face. "We will see." The next morning, Ethan rode into Pahrump to post Emma's letter. She had written carefully, explaining what she had overheard, why she had run, begging her father to investigate Richard's claims and debts. She had told him she was safe but had not revealed her location, fearing the information might somehow reach Richard. The town was small, just a few buildings clustered around a main street. Ethan went to the general store, which also served as the post office. Old Henry Pritchard ran the place and had a reputation for gossip. "Morning, Ethan," Henry said cheerfully. "Do not see you in town much. What brings you by? Just posting a letter." Ethan handed over the envelope and a few coins. Henry looked at the address. "Going to Montana, I see. Got family up there. Just a business matter." Ethan was not about to feed the gossip mill. "Say, you hear about that wedding that went sideways a few weeks back? Morgan girl ran off right before the ceremony. Her fellow, Richard Thornton, has been tearing up the territory looking for her, offering a reward and everything. Ethan kept his face neutral. That's so. Yep. Thornton claims she had some kind of nervous fit, that she is not thinking straight. Her father is beside himself with worry. Thornton has half the men in 3 counties searching. Henry leaned in. Between you and me, I never liked Thornton. Something slick about him. But that is quite a thing, leaving a man at the altar. Maybe she had her reasons. Women, Henry said with a shrug. Who can understand them? Anyway, keep an eye out, will you? There is $50 for anyone who finds her and brings her back safe. I will do that, Ethan said, his jaw tight. He tipped his hat and left the store. The ride back to the ranch gave him time to think. Richard Thornton was actively searching for Emma, and offering money was sure to motivate people. It was only a matter of time before someone thought to check the outlying ranches. He needed to tell Emma, but he did not want to frighten her. When he got home, Emma was in the garden, tying up tomato plants. She looked up when she heard his horse and waved. The sight of her there in his garden at his home made something in his chest tighten. She belonged here. He knew it with a certainty that defied logic. Letter is posted, he said, dismounting. But we need to talk. Her smile faded. What is wrong? He told her about the reward, about Richard's claims that she was having some kind of breakdown. Emma's face went pale. He is going to find me, and when he does, he will force me to go back, maybe even force me to marry him anyway. Not if we are smart about it. Ethan took her hand without thinking, a gesture that felt natural and right. First, we wait to see what your father says. If he believes you, he can call off the search, expose Richard for what he is. Second, if anyone comes around here asking questions, we will say you are my cousin from back east, visiting to help out. It is not that uncommon. And if Richard does not believe that, then we will deal with it when it happens. But Emma, I will not let anyone take you anywhere you do not want to go. You have my word on that. She squeezed his hand. I trust you. They waited anxiously for a response to Emma's letter. Days turned into a week, then 2. The routine of ranch work continued, but there was a tension underlying everything. Emma jumped at unexpected sounds. Ethan found himself checking the horizon more often, watching for riders. They also grew closer. The line between employer and employee, between host and guest, began to blur. They worked together with an easy rhythm, anticipating each other's needs without speaking. In the evenings, their conversations grew deeper. Emma told him about growing up on her father's ranch in Montana, about her mother who had died when she was young, about her dreams of having a family of her own someday. Ethan shared his own history about growing up in Kansas, learning ranching from his father, the heartbreak that brought him to Nevada. He told her things he had never told anyone, and she listened without judgment, without pity, just with understanding. One evening, they were working together to bring the cattle in from the far pasture. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Emma was on foot, guiding the cattle with a long stick, while Ethan rode alongside on his horse. One of the calves broke away from the group, and Emma chased after it, laughing. Ethan watched her, this woman who had arrived broken and crying, now running with joy across his land. She caught the calf and herded it back to the group, breathing hard, her face flushed with exertion and happiness. Got him, she called out triumphantly. Good work, Ethan called back, grinning. As they walked the cattle back to the barn, Emma fell into step beside his horse. I love it here, she said quietly. I know I should not. I know this is temporary, that I need to figure out my real life. But I love the work, the quiet, the feeling that I am building something real. What makes you think it is temporary? She looked up at him. Because I cannot stay here forever on your charity. Because eventually my past will catch up with me. Because you did not ask for any of this." Ethan stopped his horse and dismounted. They were alone on the prairie, the cattle grazing peacefully nearby. He stood in front of Emma, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to look at him. "What if I did ask for this? What if I wanted you to stay, Ethan? You said you needed time. I have given you time. 6 weeks, Emma. You have been here 6 weeks, and every day I wake up grateful that you are still here. Every day I go to sleep hoping you will still be here tomorrow." He took a breath. "I know you were hurt. I know you thought love was a lie. But what I feel for you, it is not a lie. It is the most real thing I have ever felt." Emma felt tears sting her eyes. "I am so scared, scared that I am wrong again, that I am seeing what I want to see instead of what is real." "Then test it. Test me. Ask me anything, challenge me, push me away if you need to. But give us, a real chance." He cupped her face gently in his rough hands. "I love you, Emma Morgan. I think I have loved you since I found you crying at dawn. I do not have much to offer, but what I have is yours if you want it." "I do not need much," Emma whispered. "I just need honesty, respect, someone who sees me as a partner, not a possession. Then I can give you everything you need." She reached up and covered his hands with hers. "I love you too. I think I have for weeks, but I was too scared to admit it. Too scared it would disappear like smoke if I named it." He leaned down and kissed her then, gently at first, then with growing passion. It was nothing like the chaste kisses Richard had given her during their courtship. This was real, honest, full of promise and desire. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "Marry me," Ethan said. "Not tomorrow, not next week, whenever you are ready, but marry me, Emma. Be my wife, my partner, my love." "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes, Ethan, I will marry you." They stood there in the fading light, holding each other, the cattle forgotten. Finally, Ethan laughed. "We should get these cows home before it gets full dark." "Practical even at the most romantic moment," Emma teased, but she was smiling. "Someone has to be." They walked home together, hands linked, talking about the future. They would wait for word from Emma's father before making any formal announcement. They would be smart about it. But they were committed now, and that made all the difference. The letter from Emma's father arrived 3 days later. Ethan rode to town to pick up the mail and brought it back immediately. Emma opened it with shaking hands. The news was mixed. Her father believed her about Richard. He had done some investigating and found that Richard and his brother were indeed deep in gambling debts. More than that, he had discovered that Richard was already married to a woman in California who he had abandoned years ago. The marriage to Emma would have been illegal. However, Richard was not backing down. He was claiming Emma had stolen money from him and was threatening legal action. He had convinced some people in town that Emma was unstable, that she needed to be found for her own safety. Emma's father was doing what he could, but Richard had influence and friends. "Your father wants you to stay hidden until he can get this sorted out legally," Ethan said after reading the letter. "He thinks it will take a few months at least." "A few months," Emma repeated. "Ethan, I cannot put you in danger if Richard finds out I am here. Then we will deal with it together." He took her hand. "Besides, I have an idea. What if we got married now? Not a big ceremony, just a simple legal marriage. As my wife, you would have more protection. Richard would have no claim on you at all." "Are you sure? That is not how I imagined our wedding." "We can have a proper celebration later after all of this is sorted out. But right now, the most important thing is keeping you safe and making sure no one can force you to do anything you do not want to do." Emma thought about it. It was practical, not romantic. But then again, their whole relationship had been built on practicality and honest need. The romance had grown from that solid foundation, not in spite of it. "All right," she said. Let us do it. Let us get married. They rode into Pahrump the next day. Ethan had a plan. They would go to the circuit judge, who held court in the saloon once a month. It was not ideal, but it was legal. They brought along Tom Henderson, who owned the ranch neighboring Ethan's, and his wife, Sarah, as witnesses. Ethan had told them the truth about Emma's situation, and they had agreed to help. The ceremony was brief and businesslike. Judge Morrison asked the necessary questions, and they both answered clearly. Ethan had bought a simple gold band from the general store, and he slipped it on Emma's finger as he said his vows. She had nothing for him, but he said it did not matter. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the judge said. "You may kiss your bride." Ethan did, a gentle kiss that nevertheless held promise. When they pulled apart, Emma was smiling, and so was he. "Congratulations," Sarah said warmly, hugging Emma. "I am so happy for you both." They filed the marriage certificate that day, making it official and legal. As they rode back to the ranch, now officially man and wife, Emma felt a peace she had not experienced in months. "I know this was not the wedding you dreamed of," Ethan said as they rode. "It was perfect," Emma said honestly. "No fuss, no show, just honest promises between two people who love each other. That is all I ever really wanted." That night, they truly became husband and wife in every sense. Ethan was gentle and patient, and Emma felt cherished in a way she never had before. Afterward, they lay together in the darkness, talking quietly. "What do you think will happen when Richard finds out I am married?" Emma asked. "I think he will be angry, but there is nothing he can do. You are my wife now, legally, completely. He has no claim on you." "I hate that he can still frighten me. Fear is natural, but you are stronger than you think, Emma. You survived him. You built a new life. You are not the same woman who ran away crying at dawn." She nestled closer to him. "No, I am not. I am better now, stronger, and happier than I ever thought possible." For several weeks, life was peaceful. They fell into the rhythms of married life, working the ranch together, sharing meals and conversations in their bed. Emma proved to be an excellent partner. She was strong, capable, and full of ideas for improving the ranch. Ethan found himself consulting her on every decision, valuing her input. They were happy. Truly, deeply happy. But they both knew it could not last. Eventually, Richard would find out where she was. It happened on a hot afternoon in late August. Emma was in the garden when she heard horses approaching, 3 riders coming fast. She stood slowly, her heart beginning to pound. She recognized the man in front immediately. Richard Thornton. She ran for the house, but Richard was faster. He dismounted and caught her arm before she could reach the door. "There you are, my darling Emma," he said, his voice dripping with false sweetness. "I have been so worried about you. Let me go, Richard." Emma tried to pull away, but his grip tightened painfully. "Not until we talk." "You embarrassed me, Emma, made me look like a fool, and I do not appreciate what you have been telling people about me. It is all true, and you know it. Lies from a hysterical woman." His face hardened. "You are coming back with me. We are going to fix this mess you have made." "I am not going anywhere with you. I am married now." Richard laughed. "Married? To whom? No one would have you after what you did. To me." They both turned. Ethan was walking toward them from the barn, his posture relaxed but his eyes cold as ice. Emma had never seen him look like this, dangerous and coiled tight. "And who are you?" Richard demanded. "Ethan Grayson, Emma's husband." He stopped a few feet away. "Let go of my wife." "Husband," Richard scoffed. "I do not believe you." "Whether you believe it or not does not change the fact that it is true. We were married 6 weeks ago, legally and properly. Now let go of her arm before I make you." Richard's 2 companions moved their hands toward their guns, but Ethan did not flinch. "You really want to do this?" Threaten a woman on her own property. In front of witnesses, he gestured. And Emma saw Tom Henderson and his oldest son standing near the barn, both holding rifles. Richard's face flushed with anger, but he released Emma's arm. She immediately moved to Ethan's side. He put an arm around her, pulling her close. "This is not over," Richard said. "I have money, influence, I can make trouble for you. Go ahead and try. I have proof of your gambling debts, proof of your existing marriage in California, and a signed affidavit from Emma detailing your plans to defraud her father. Try to make trouble for us, and I will make sure every lawman and newspaper in the territory knows exactly what kind of man you are." Emma stared at her husband. "How did you get all of that? Your father and I have been corresponding. He sent me everything he uncovered." Ethan's eyes never left Richard. "You have no power here, Thornton. Emma is my wife. She is under my protection. And if you or your friends ever set foot on my property again, I will defend what is mine. Am I clear?" Richard looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Ethan's stance made him reconsider. "You have not heard the last of this," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I think I have," Ethan replied. "Now get off my land." Richard and his companions mounted their horses and rode away. Emma sagged against Ethan, relief and residual fear making her shake. He held her tightly. "Thank you, Tom," Ethan called to his neighbor. "Anytime," Tom said. "You need anything else, you just holler." After Tom and his son left, Ethan led Emma into the house. She was crying now, all the tension and fear of the past months finally releasing. "It is over," Ethan said, holding her. "He is gone and he is not coming back." "You were amazing," Emma said between sobs. "I have never seen you like that. I will not let anyone hurt you, not ever." She pulled back to look at him. "You were corresponding with my father. Why did you not tell me?" "I wanted to make sure we had everything in place to protect you. I did not want to get your hopes up if it did not work out." He wiped her tears gently. "Your father is a good man. He wants you to be happy, and he is grateful you found someone who loves you the way you deserve. I do not deserve you. That is backward. I am the lucky one here." They held each other for a long time. Finally, Emma said, "Is it really over? Can we just live our lives now?" "Yes. Richard has no claim on you. Your father is handling things in Montana. We can just be married, Emma, just be happy." And they were. Over the following months, they heard through letters that Richard had left the territory, his reputation in ruins once Emma's father made public what he had discovered. Emma's father also sent a generous gift, enough money to buy some additional cattle and make improvements to the ranch. "He says it is my inheritance, that I should have it now to build my life with you," Emma told Ethan after reading the letter. "We will use it wisely," Ethan promised. They did. The ranch grew and prospered. They bought more land, more cattle. Ethan built an addition onto the house, making more room. Emma started a proper vegetable garden and sold produce in town. They worked hard, but they also made time for each other, for quiet evenings on the porch, for rides across the desert, for the simple joy of being together. Emma wrote to her father regularly, and he wrote back, gradually accepting that his daughter had found her own path. He visited once, the following spring, and was impressed by what Emma and Ethan had built together. He could see how happy his daughter was, how much she and Ethan loved each other, and he gave them his full blessing. 2 years after they married, Emma discovered she was pregnant. She told Ethan one evening after supper, nervous about his reaction. But he was overjoyed, pulling her into a fierce hug and spinning her around until she laughed and begged him to put her down. "We are having a baby," he kept saying, wonder in his voice. A baby. Their son was born in the spring of 1885, a healthy boy with his father's dark hair and his mother's green eyes. They named him James, after Ethan's father. Holding his son for the first time, Ethan felt a love so fierce and overwhelming that it brought tears to his eyes. "He is perfect," Emma whispered, exhausted but glowing. "Just perfect." "Like his mother," Ethan said, kissing her forehead. Life with a baby was chaotic but joyful. James was a happy child, quick to smile and laugh. As he grew, he showed signs of having both his father's steadiness and his mother's sharp mind. Ethan taught him about the ranch, about caring for animals and the land. Emma taught him to read and write, filling his mind with stories and knowledge. 3 years after James, they had a daughter. They named her Rose, and she was as strong-willed as her mother and as patient as her father. The house that had once been so quiet was now full of noise and laughter and love. Emma's father visited regularly, thrilled to be a grandfather. He would sit on the porch with Ethan, watching the children play and marvel at how things had turned out. "I am sorry for pushing you toward Richard," he told Emma during one visit. "I should have listened to your doubts." "You could not have known," Emma said. "And if it had not happened, I never would have ended up here. I never would have found Ethan. So in a strange way, I am grateful for it all." One evening, when the children were asleep and they were sitting on their porch watching the sunset, Emma turned to Ethan. "Do you remember what I said that first morning? When you found me, you said you thought love was a lie. I was so wrong. Love is not a lie, it is just rare. It is just that most people do not recognize it when they find it because they are looking for the wrong things." She took his hand. "I thought love was excitement and passion and pretty words. But real love, true love, it is this. It is working together toward a common goal. It is respecting each other. It is choosing each other every single day." "It is also excitement and passion," Ethan said with a grin. "We have plenty of that too," Emma laughed. "True, but the foundation is what matters. Everything else is built on top of that. I love you, Emma Grayson. I loved you when I found you crying at dawn, and I will love you until my last breath. And I love you, Ethan. You showed me what love really is. You gave me everything I did not even know I needed." They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching the sun sink below the horizon. Their life was not fancy or glamorous. It was hard work and early mornings and dirty clothes. But it was theirs, built on honesty and respect and genuine love, and that made it more valuable than any amount of money or status. Years passed. The children grew. James showed an aptitude for ranching and stayed on to work the land with his father. Rose married a young lawyer from town and moved to Carson City, but visited often with her own growing family. Emma's father passed away peacefully in his sleep, having lived to see his grandchildren grown and happy. Ethan and Emma grew older together, their hair graying, their hands becoming gnarled with age and work. But their love never dimmed. If anything, it grew deeper with each passing year, strengthened by everything they had been through together, everything they had built together. On their 30th wedding anniversary, Ethan took Emma back to the place where he had found her all those years ago. The creek bed was still dry, the desert still harsh and beautiful. "Why did we come here?" Emma asked. "Because this is where our story started. I wanted to remember." He took both her hands. 30 years, Emma. 30 years of marriage, of partnership, of love. It has been the greatest gift of my life. "Mine too," Emma said, tears in her eyes. "I was so broken that day, so sure that love was impossible. And then you came along and proved me wrong in the best possible way." "We proved each other wrong," Ethan said. "I thought I was done with love, that I was better off alone. You showed me I was wrong. You made my life full in ways I never imagined." They stood there in the dawn light, holding each other. Two people who had found unexpected love in the hardest of circumstances and built something beautiful from it. More years passed. They welcomed more grandchildren. delighting in each new life. They celebrated James taking over the main operations of the ranch, though Ethan still worked every day, unable to stay completely away from the land he loved. Emma kept her garden and her chickens, sold her produce, and became known throughout the county as a woman of wisdom and kindness. They faced hardships as all lives do, droughts that threatened the cattle, illness that required care, the normal struggles of life. But they faced everything together, and that made all the difference. When Ethan was 65, he became ill. The doctor could not say exactly what was wrong, just that he was weakening. Emma nursed him devotedly, sitting by his bedside, talking to him about their life together, about their children and grandchildren, about all the good years they had shared. "I am not ready to leave you," Ethan said one afternoon, his voice weak. "Then do not," Emma said fiercely. "Fight, stay with me." And he did. He recovered slowly but surely, stubborn determination and Emma's devoted care pulling him back from the edge. The doctor called it a miracle. Emma called it love. They had 10 more good years together after that scare. 10 more years of sunsets and grandchildren, and the quiet comfort of a life well lived. When Ethan finally passed, it was peacefully in his sleep, with Emma beside him. He was 75 years old, and he had lived every day with purpose and love. Emma grieved deeply, but she did not regret a single moment. She had 43 years with the man who had saved her when she had nothing, who had shown her what real love looked like, who had been her partner in every sense of the word. She lived for another 5 years after Ethan passed, staying on the ranch with James and his family, still tending her garden, still baking bread and telling stories to her great-grandchildren. She talked about Ethan often, keeping his memory alive through her words. When Emma died at the age of 80, she was surrounded by family, by the legacy of love she and Ethan had built together. Their story became legend in the family, passed down through generations. The story of how a cowboy found a bride crying at dawn, how she thought love was a lie, and how together they proved that love, real love, was the truest thing in the world. Their graves sit side by side on a hill overlooking the ranch, simple headstones that bear their names and the dates of their lives. But their real legacy is not in stone. It is in the family they created, in the land they stewarded, in the love they shared and passed on to every generation that followed. James, in his later years, would bring his own grandchildren to that hillside and tell them the story. About how their great-grandfather found their great-grandmother in a time of desperate need. About how they built something from nothing. About how they loved each other through everything life threw at them. "The most important thing to remember," James would tell the children, "is that love is not easy. It is not just feelings. It is a choice you make every single day. My parents chose each other every day for 43 years. That is what made their love so strong. Not that it was perfect, but that they kept choosing it, kept choosing each other, no matter what." The ranch continued to prosper through the generations, always kept in the family. Each generation added their own touches, their own improvements, but they always kept the core of what Ethan and Emma built. A place of honest work, of family, of love. In the old house, now carefully preserved, visitors could still see Emma's kitchen where she baked bread and cooked meals for her family. They could see Ethan's chair on the porch, worn smooth by decades of use. They could see the bedroom where both their children were born, where they slept side by side for so many years. But more than the physical objects, they could feel something in that house. A warmth, a sense of peace and love that had soaked into the very walls over the years. It was a house that had known great happiness, and that happiness lingered like a blessing. Rose's daughter, named Emma after her grandmother, grew up hearing the stories. As a young woman facing her own romantic struggles, she traveled back to Pahrump to visit the old ranch, to walk the land her great-grandparents had worked, to stand where her great-grandfather had found her great-grandmother all those years ago. She stood at that dried creek bed at dawn, trying to imagine how scared and alone her great-grandmother must have felt that day. And then she tried to imagine the courage it took to accept help from a stranger, to trust again after being so deeply betrayed, to open her heart to love when she thought it was a lie. She was braver than I am, young Emma whispered to herself. No, she was just as scared as you are, a voice said behind her. She turned to find her Uncle James, now an old man himself, but still sharp-eyed and steady. Uncle James, I did not hear you ride up. Old habit, moving quiet. He came to stand beside her. You come out here thinking about your fellow from Boston, Emma nodded. I do not know if what we have is real or if I am just fooling myself. I do not want to make a mistake. Your great-grandmother did not know either. She was scared too, scared she was wrong again. But she trusted her gut, and more than that, she paid attention to actions, not just words. My father showed her every day through what he did that he loved her, that he respected her. That is what she chose to believe in, not pretty promises but consistent, honest action. What if I am wrong? Then you will survive it just like she survived Richard Thornton. But Emma, from what you have told me about this fellow, he sounds like a good man. Does he respect you? Does he listen to you? Does he treat you like an equal? Yes, to all of that. Then take a chance. Love is always a risk. But the right kind of love, it is worth every bit of that risk. Young Emma hugged her uncle. Thank you. That is what family is for. Now come on back to the house. Your aunt has breakfast ready, and you know how she gets when people are late to meals. As they walked back together, young Emma felt a sense of peace settling over her. She had come here looking for answers, and in a way, she had found them. Not in dramatic revelations, but in the simple truth of her great-grandparents' story. That love was real, but it took courage to claim it. She returned to Boston and married her fellow, a kind man who treated her with the same respect and love that Ethan had shown Emma all those years ago. Their marriage was strong and happy, and when they had children of their own, she made sure to tell them the story of their great-great-grandparents, keeping the legacy alive. The story of Ethan and Emma became a touchstone for the family, a reminder of what love should be. When times were hard, they remembered how Ethan and Emma had built something from nothing. When relationships struggled, they remembered the respect and partnership that had sustained their ancestors' marriage through everything. When fear threatened to hold them back, they remembered Emma's courage in accepting love again after being so hurt. Back at the ranch, which was now run by James's grandson, life continued. The land that Ethan and Emma had worked so hard to build remained in the family, a testament to everything they had valued. Hard work, honesty, family, love. These things did not change with time or fashion. They remained as true in the 20th century as they had been in the 19th. On the mantel in the old house, carefully preserved, sat a photograph taken on Ethan and Emma's 25th wedding anniversary. It was one of the few photographs they ever had taken, the photographer having been in Pahrump for a cattle convention and offering his services to local families. In the photograph, Ethan and Emma stood side by side, his arm around her waist, her hand on his chest. They were not smiling in the formal way of old photographs, but there was something in their eyes, in the way they stood together, that spoke of deep connection and love. Anyone who looked at that photograph could see that these were two people who belonged together, who had found something rare and precious. Below the photograph, in Emma's careful handwriting, was a small card. On it, she had written, I thought love was a lie. He showed me it was the truest thing in the world. This is the story of how a cowboy saved a bride, but really, we saved each other. And that was the real truth of their story. Not that Ethan rescued Emma, though he had. Not that she was simply grateful, though she was. But that two broken people, both carrying their own hurts and doubts, had found each other at exactly the right moment. They had chosen to trust again, to love again, to build something together. And in doing so, they had created a legacy that lasted generations, a testament to the power of honest, respectful, enduring love. The sun set over Pahrump, Nevada, just as it had every night for thousands of years. The desert, harsh and beautiful, stretched in every direction. And on a small ranch, the home that Ethan built still stood, filled with the love he and Emma had shared. Their story was complete, their ending happy, their love remembered and honored by everyone who came after them. They had proven that love was not a lie. It was the most real thing in the world. And that truth, hard-won and honestly earned, was the greatest gift they could have left behind.